Welcome to the Razors Inc. podcast with your host, Jonathan Farini. In 1959, Tennessee Williams' play about a drifter who returns to his hometown as the companion of a faded movie star, Sweet Bird of Youth, became the toast of Broadway. So much so that just 3 years later it was turned into a movie starring its original leads on the stage, Paul Newman and Geraldine Page. Set in the hot, humid atmosphere of the Deep South, a hallmark of Tennessee Williams' work, Sweet Bird of Youth was more than a story of aging, lost dreams, and chasing youth. It made us question the power dynamic between the client and the worker, and who benefits more. Then, some 20 years later, another movie came along that asked those same questions. So pour yourself a drink, pull up a chair, and hear Jonathan's take on movies, television, and today, Sweet Bird versus American Gigolo. Here's your host, Jonathan Farini.
Let me ask you something, and I mean this seriously. When a man sells his beauty, what is he actually selling? Because we understand this dynamic when it's a woman. Cinema has trained us to. It's familiar. It's almost like it's code. But when the man is the commodity, we get quiet. We look away. Or we make it an aesthetic. We turn it into style, into mood, into something easier to digest. But there's two films I want to talk about that refuse to let us look away. The first one, American Gigolo, released in 1980, written and directed by Paul Schrader, starring Richard Gere as Julian Kay, and Lauren Hutton as Michelle Stratton. I encourage you to see my previous podcast about American Gigolo, where I will make some narrative assumptions that you might not see in critiques or film analyses. It's in my library of podcasts. And nearly 2 decades earlier, the movie Sweet Bird of Youth, directed by Richard Brooks, based on the Tennessee Williams play, starring Paul Newman as Chance Wayne and Geraldine Page as Alexandra Del Lago. In both these films, there's two men, but two distinct eras of time, but the same underlying question. What happens when a man's primary asset is that he is wanted? Let's start with Julian Kay in American Gigolo.
Detta är första besök. Nej, vi var här i fjol också. Han är ensam.
That's the early sequence. You remember it. The ritual, the closet, the suits, the ties. All Armani, by the way. The careful selection. Beautiful choice of musical score, by the way. It almost plays like armor being assembled. But it's not armor. It's packaging. Julian's not getting dressed. He's preparing himself to be consumed. Yeah. And here's what's fascinating. He's in control right up until he isn't. He sets the prices. He chooses the clients. He maintains standards. On the surface, he's powerful. But then there's that scene when the senator's wife, the negotiation. She's not buying sex. She's buying discretion. She's buying emotional containment. She's buying a man who will not disrupt her life, only enhance it temporarily.
My husband's in New York.
What about your friend?
I'm not waiting for anyone.
You still don't understand
Understand what?
who I am.
Who are you?
You don't even understand who you are. Why you're sitting here.
Why are you here?
I'd like to go.
All right, just one thing. Why did you come on to me?
Like I said, I made a mistake. I heard you speaking French. Often in these big hotels, you run into women from foreign countries who may need a translator or a guide.
And they hire you.
Yes.
How many languages do you speak?
5 or 6.
was the international language.
The set design in that bar, all orange, was eerily reminding me of Kubrick in Clockwork Orange. Just an aside. And suddenly, Julian's role becomes clearer. He's not selling desire, he's selling safety, which raises the question, what are these women really seeking? Is it sex? Or is it control over the terms of intimacy? Because with Julian, everything is defined in advance. No surprises, no emotional risk, no consequences that extend beyond the transaction. And yet, watch him when he's alone. There's that quiet scene in his apartment, no client, no performance, just him. And what's missing is striking. There's no audience, no validation, no proof that he exists outside of being wanted. So, what is he seeking? In my opinion, it's not sex. He has unlimited access to that. Check my podcast out, and you'll see that, in my opinion, it's not just related to the female gender. It's not even money, not really. It's recognition, legitimacy, to be seen as something more than the service he provides. And that's where the vulnerability lives. Because the moment someone stops paying, does he still exist in the same way? Think about it. Now, place him, Julian, beside Chance Wayne in Sweet Bird of Youth. Chance isn't as polished as Julian. He's not curated, but he's desperate. And that desperation is the tell. Remember that hotel room scene with Alexandra Del Lago, the actress whose star is descending? She's aging, volatile, and painfully aware of the passage of time, as is Chance. And he stays close to her, not out of love, not even out of real attraction, but because she's a gateway to Hollywood, to relevance, to a second chance.
While my friends were doing the conventional things like flunking out of State University, I appeared in the biggest stage hit on Broadway. I had my picture on the cover of Life magazine. And at the same time, I was employing my other talent, lovemaking.
That may be the only talent you ever truly meant for.
Well, I wallowed in a social register of New York. Discreet wives in the millionaire set. Debutante daughters in the horsey set.
Did they foot the bills, too?
Yeah. But I always gave much more than I took. To older women, I gave back a feeling of excitement and youth. To sad, lost women, a merciful display of affection and temporary hope. Eccentrics, understanding and tolerance.
You see, Chance Wayne, again, even the name feels like a confession. Chance. He's selling something, yeah. But what he's really trying to buy is time. And time is the one thing no one in that room actually controls. Now, watch Alexandra closely, because she's often misunderstood. People assume she's buying youth, but that's not quite it, in my opinion. She's buying denial. She's buying the illusion that she is still desired in the same way she once was. She doesn't want Chance as a man. She wants what his presence says about her. And here's where it gets really complicated. Who has the power? He needs her access. She needs his youth. So who's in control? The uncomfortable answer is neither, in my opinion. They're both negotiating against time. I did a podcast about time in movies. You can see it in my library. And time is always undefeated for all of us. So let's talk about the pros and cons for the men. The advantage is obvious: access, speed. Doors open faster when you're desired. Julian moves through Los Angeles with ease and style, a hell of a lot of style. Chance gets close to power he never earned. But what's the cost? Their value is conditional. It's only temporary. It depends entirely on external validation. And that creates a very specific kind of anxiety. What happens when the phone stops ringing? What happens when the mirror changes? What happens when someone younger, fresher, more current replaces you? Because they know it's coming. You can feel it in both performances, that low level dread, not loud, not dramatic, just constant. Now, for the women, what do they gain? Control, predictability, the ability to define the terms of intimacy.
I don't mind waking up in an intimate situation with someone. But I do like to see who it is. So I can make whatever adjustment seems called for. Well, I may have done better. But God knows I have done worse.
There's no emotional labor beyond what they choose, no vulnerability they didn't sign up for. Well, what's the cost? Well, I think it's subtle because what they're engaging with isn't fully real. Julian is performing, Chance is positioning. These men are not showing up as themselves, they're showing up as what's required. So the question becomes, can you actually be fulfilled by something that is designed from the beginning not to be authentic? And maybe more importantly, do they care? Because some of these women aren't looking for authenticity. I think they're looking for relief from loneliness, from pressure, from the expectations placed on them in every other part of their lives. And in that sense, these men are not just companions, they're solutions. Temporary, controlled, finite solutions. So, why hasn't this subject, men for sale, been explored more deeply in film? In my opinion, because it disrupts something fundamental. We are more comfortable seeing women as the object of desire. It fits the narrative in cinema. It aligns with history. But when men become the object, when their value is reduced to appearance or availability or performance, it destabilizes traditional ideas of masculinity. It raises uncomfortable questions about dependency and fragility, about whether male power is as inherent as we pretend it is, or whether it's just better disguised. And films don't always want to go there, because once you start pulling that thread, it does not stop. Now, bring this into today, because this isn't theoretical anymore. Social media has made all of this visible. It's quantifiable, it's repeatable. These men now everywhere curating themselves the way Julian did: body, clothes, lifestyle, presence.
Red Uniqlo socks, light wash Levi's 517. We've talked about this before, but I like the boot cut with the sneaker because it just kind of falls over the top really nicely, like so.
So I want to make sure that you look your absolute best. Update your closet with the trends that are going to dominate this year. If you're still stuck wearing skinny jeans or those crazy oversized streetwear trends, this video is for you.
And they're being rewarded for it. You see, attention has become currency, desirability has become leverage, and access becomes scalable. But here's the difference. Julian had clients. Now there's an audience. Constant watching, judging, replacing, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year worldwide. And Chance Wayne's fear that his moment is slipping, that's not a quiet fear anymore. That's daily life. Scroll long enough and you'll see it. Someone younger, more polished, more wanted. So now we're all in some way participating in the same economy. Some of us consciously, some of us not. And that brings us to the question I want to leave you with. It's not comfortable, but it's honest. If a man builds his life on being wanted and a woman builds her power on choosing who to want, then what happens when both of those things become negotiable? It's not private, it's not intimate, but it's public and visible, constantly evaluated. Here's the real question, I think. In a world where beauty can be monetized, scaled, and replaced instantly, is anyone actually in control of the exchange anymore? Or are we all just responding to the same invisible market? Till I see you next time, please leave behind a soft footprint. And class is dismissed.
And it's worth noting that while it's set in the South, Sweet Bird of Youth was inspired by Tennessee Williams's observations of Hollywood and the overwhelming fear of fading relevance that runs amok in Southern California, the very setting for American Gigolo. Yet both deal with the illusion of youth, both as something fleeting and something destructive when chased too hard. You've been listening to the Razors Inc. podcast with Jonathan Farini. Be sure to check out Jonathan's collection of fiction at jonathanfarini.com. Also, look for Jonathan's latest short story, Used Steinways, in which a young lady meets an unlikely mentor who reveals life lessons found inside pianos. Used Steinways, already published by Egophobia and Mobius magazines, as well as The Wise Owl. Used Steinways has just been featured in The Last Fantasy Kingdom, the latest quarterly essay collection by Scars Publications. Look for it at scars.tv. You can also drop an email anytime to razorsincpodcast@gmail.com.